Okay, we are back for the second session of Fall 1 painting class, and everyone should hopefully have the inspiration photo that we'll be using for this. I have it here pulled up on the phone. It should be in everyone's text messages or email. And the only new material we'll need for this certain class is a gold leaf. And so it's like a little gold, should be a couple of gold pieces of paper. I'm going to pull it out here from my materials and show it to you. Just looks like that. That's gold leaf. Okay, so later in the session we'll be using that. We'll be cutting it up with scissors, so you may also want to grab some scissors to cut it up with straight lines. It is an abstract piece, so it doesn't have to be perfectly straight lines. But in the inspiration photo, there are somewhat straight lines being used. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing to do will be to use a peach color. So just mix some yellow and a little bit of pink or red with it. I've already mixed my color here. If you have a gold color to use, that's perfectly fine as well. I'm going to go ahead and just start putting it down there in the corner and just having fun. I may get my brush a little bit watery just so I can try to expand the paint just a little. Yeah, that's a nice kind of golden color there. And again, we'll be doing quite a few layers, so feel free to, the paint can be a little bit thin because we'll be painting over things. I'm just dipping my brush in a little bit of water and then dipping it back into the paint. Just getting any old colors, any old textures down onto the canvas. That'll be good. Go ahead and set my inspiration photo next to the painting. Okay, and then it looks like there's a little stripe of orange in there. Also, the inspiration photo is a square shape, and then this one that we're working on is very rectangular, so there will be definitely some, ad-libbing here. Let's see what I can do in the way of, because that's definitely a really kind of bright orange that's in there, and I may not even be able to mix that color today. I suppose I could go with a bit of a brighter pink, but if you don't have that, you could mix your red with and make it, add more white to it. So you could take this same color and add white. That would lighten it up. Whenever I add this bright pink, it just makes it kind of, it doesn't really make it orange, that's for sure. Maybe I'll add some white. Really just going for different textures here. I'm not trying too hard. Just want some variation. That's pretty neat there. Kind of adding some, oh, and see, that's good because they're in the inspiration photo. That pink is down here in this edge. So that works out. But just play with it and have fun and fill it in with colors. It doesn't have to be anything specific, especially backgrounds. I try to teach students that backgrounds need to somewhat fade into the back. They don't need to stand out too much. They just need to be kind of a texture, just there so that the viewer stays interested, when they get bored of the main focus. They have something else to look at. So we'll just keep adding pink, yellow, kind of an orangish color. Adding in the white to make it nice and light, kind of give it that golden glow. You can see using the biggest brush you have, well, as long as it's not huge, but like a 2 or 3 inch brush helps fill in quite a bit of space here on the canvas. Okay, it looks like in the inspiration photo the color up here got to kind of a creamy gold, or just a cream color even. So I may add a bit more white. Just for fun. It's kind of nice. Have that real light up there. And most of this will be covered up later, so I'm not worrying too much about how it looks right now. Just trying to get as much color down on the canvas as possible. And then this next color that's going to be added is, it's kind of this shape right here in this diagonal. I have a red that I'm going to use, but if all you have is a pink or a magenta, you can mix your pink or magenta with a bit of black, and it'll give it kind of a similar effect. So that may take a little bit of time to do. But if you happen to have a red color, go ahead and use it. And if it turns out looking pretty dark, I mean, it really could go either way. It could look really dark, or it could look kind of light. And I think either one would be fine because it's just up here in this corner. It even looks like, though, in the inspiration photo that things got real dark in that corner, which is fine. But, so here's this reddish color. And I'll just kind of keep on adding. I'm going to stand up so I can get the top of the canvas. And if at any point things get frustrating, I like to tell myself that the point of painting is to get frustrated and then to later, just kind of go with it and resolve it. And that the attempts to resolve it and then coming to that place of acceptance, or that place of just embracing what's happening, that's what makes painting so peaceful. So let's see, we could add black to this corner, but I think what I'm going to do is add a turquoise color, kind of a bluish color to that corner, because I want it to be dark, but not, I don't think black is what I'm going to go for. So I have sort of a blue color here. If you have a turquoise, you could use that. But that's nice because it adds just kind of a shadowy color. I do notice that the type of paint I'm using, which you may not be using, but the type of paint I'm using, I'm thinking I'm going to need a second coat up here. I may not get to that during this session, but we will just kind of go with what this is now. And then if there's time, we'll go for a second coat. Just my red the particular red that I'm using is very, what's the word? It's kind of translucent. So now I'm just making a little mark for where I want. I'm just using extra paint that I have. kind of emptying my brush, if you will. So I'm making this mark for where I want a little plant shape to be later, but that's just to add some texture. And also, while I have this dark color on my brush, I'm going to add kind of a heart shape up here. We'll come back later, but that's just to help map out where things will go. It's kind of a sketch, and if it doesn't end up working out, it can be a background texture for later. Okay, and then I'll do another one over here. I like to just use any extra paint that I have on my brush and just use it somewhere, and then later I can paint over it or use it as a texture or just kind of, but that's just to help me map things out. And then also we'll want to fill in this area, which probably would have been easier if I had done it first, but I'm going to go ahead and continue with this orangish and reddish and pinkish background over here. And I'm just using different motions, hopefully trying to create some texture. Again, if you have the magenta or, a red mixed with white, you can go ahead and kind of add some of that in over here. I'm just using a pink color. It could be a magenta color. It could be magenta or red mixed with white. And really, I'm just trying to fill in any little spaces I see that aren't filled in yet. So I'm going to keep going with that. Might mix it with more white, might mix it with some yellow. I've got this dark color from up here still on my brush. So I kind of just got a mix of everything going, but trying to just make things textured. That's really the point. Gonna go ahead and add some water, a watery brush. Okay, that didn't help too much. It's okay. Wasn't exactly what I was going for. But, sometimes it's good to just have these happy accidents. Just let it happen. It's nice how paint can be painted over. Again, I'm going to try to get the sides of the canvas. At the bottom. Okay, sides painted, bottom mostly painted. And now just seeing, okay, that's the texture, some of the texture that we're going for there. And I'm just adding little strokes wherever I see maybe, it would be just interesting to have, there's a little yellow and white stroke. I'm going to try to move the camera a little bit closer. Okay, so make sure I got it all. Okay. And then just here and there adding some color, some different types of colors in different areas. So I've got pink on one side of my brush and then yellow and white on the other side. And I think while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and add another layer there in the corner. I'm having paint difficulties, so I will try. First, I need to find all my paints. I've been throwing them around as I as I paint. Oh, okay. I wanted to add more red here, but I'm not finding my specific red paint that I have been using. But feel free to use this time to catch up and kind of continue to add. You know, you can kind of do this motion with the brush, kind of tap it and add something interesting. You know, kind of tap and then, or just now I got some on my hands, so I'll just do that for fun. Just so there's something in the background. And most of it will probably end up getting covered up anyway. Look for my red paint. Oh, I set it right behind me, so that was the only place I didn't look. Okay, so putting some red paint straight onto the brush and then onto the canvas. And see how imperfect that is? That's just kind of a mess over there, but that's okay because I want it to be kind of wild. Okay, I normally like to preach that I'm using a larger brush than one would normally think, but I think I've kind of gotten to the point where most of this background feels pretty painted and I'm ready to start on something a bit more detailed. So I'll put the larger brush away, pick up a smaller brush, and just looking here at the inspiration photo again and seeing, okay, what's next as far as, you know, background to foreground. And I'm seeing this gold, I don't know what you call that, but just a gold shape in the corner there. I'm seeing a red heart in the background up here. So, and then I'm seeing quite a bit of texture up in the background, some green and some little green down here. So green up here, green down here, and then some green in the middle. We'll just kind of work on it and we'll just add layer by layer and see where we end up. Okay, so I'm getting a nice medium-sized brush now. And first gonna work on that kind of goldish color. So if you have a nice gold, feel free to use it right here. I need to mix mine. Mine's so yellow. I'm gonna make a little gold color for me. But if you have a gold already made, that would be the thing to use here. So it would be kind of like there. Coming in. And, you know, canvases make it to where the lines, your outer lines, aren't very smooth. So I like to add a little bit of water. The only problem is then when one adds water, the paint can get kind of thin. So that's why there's this recommendation of using multiple layers. But anyway, so there's that kind of gold shape from the inspiration photo. And let's just, while there's gold on the brush, just kind of fill in a few little gold spots in some different places. It can just be anywhere and they can be any shape. Just like little, just like running the brush across the canvas. Okay, good. And anything else? Maybe over here. Just so we get that hint of that gold color. Okay, good. So then the next thing that drew attention was a real red heart that's over here, and it's over in the background, so I think I might even use a smaller brush than what I have now. Now I've got this size brush. This is probably about 3/4 of an inch. And again, you'll use either a red color here or a magenta. And if it is magenta, feel free to mix it with just a tiny bit of either black or turquoise or blue color, just so it gets a little bit more red. But also magenta just by itself would be fine. Just going for kind of a red or pink color. So you'll see as the painting comes together. Okay. So again, we're going for fairly smooth edges here. It doesn't have to be perfect because it is abstract, but sometimes it's nice to just have a little area where things are recognizable. So this is our one area of recognizable shape in the painting. So there's a heart, and I'm just working on making my edges somewhat smooth. I'm not going for perfection though, because abstract just begs to have imperfections. Okay. So there's our red heart. And one thing we need to do is kind of wait between layers to let things dry. But the nice thing is we'll move from section to section to section to section to section. We'll kind of move around the painting. So while this is drying, and hopefully, if you're making it thin enough, it'll dry fairly quickly. So, okay, then the next red heart, there's one back here that I noticed in the reference photo. So I'm gonna go ahead and start that. And this one will be even more covered up, so feel free to just paint as quickly and, kind of loosely as possible. But it sure is fun. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, now I have got quite a bit of red excess paint. Kind of hard to see. Quite a bit of red excess paint on the brush. So in the reference photo, it looks like there's a bit of a shape down here that's kind of it's probably more pink in the reference photo, but we'll just use a red here. Just make kind of loops. Almost looks like a little plant or something, but just little loops. And then I also see something like a big red shape over here. And I may add water to that. So it's kind of smooth and kind of a big smooth red shape. And it'll be in the background later, but there's that. to me, that's just red and water. So it's kind of a hint of a shape or something. And notice how we want a background that doesn't really detract from the foreground. And then we start adding these elements on top. Let's see, so the next thing, I guess while we have this red on the brush, let's just add some little, especially because it's red mixed with water, it's nice and flowy. So I'm gonna go ahead and just add a few different areas of that red. And again, yours might be magenta, and that's completely fine. But I am just adding a little bit of some shapes, some lines. You can kind of just play. Okay, good. Okay, see how I'm moving real fast around the canvas and just trying to have fun. Okay, so it looks like the next thing to do will be to add some green. And so for green, you're going to take your turquoise color, or you may have blue, but students of mine usually use turquoise because it's kind of a thing. But if you have blue, that's all right too. And then you'll mix it with yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm mixing my blue and yellow, and it's supposed to be making a green color, but see how that looks really light? So now I'm going to add a bit more blue. Still looks light. Still trying to add blue. If it looks really light, of course you can always add more blue, but sometimes it'll get to be a green color that just doesn't look like what you're going for. And what you can do is add a bit more black, just a dab of black, and that'll turn it to kind of a forest green. So I actually have a pre-mixed green that I'm going to use, but students mostly should have a turquoise and a yellow to mix together. And it'll make a real brilliant green, which is really pretty, but sometimes it's nice to kind of have a hunter green. And like I said, once you get the green, you'd add a dab of black. So let me actually see if I can do this one. Okay, so here's my palette. So here's the green. And see how brilliant that color is. And then when we add the black, it'll be just the ever so slightest amount of black, just a little dot. See that? Just as small amount as we can possibly get. And then once it's mixed with that, it'll turn it to kind of a hunter green. And if it's still too brilliant, you can always add another dot of black. Let's see, I might go ahead and start with this brilliant. I mean, even though I did mix it with some black, it's still a little bit light, but I don't think having a little bit of light green is any problem. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start. And so these shapes, taking this brush and just kind of doing a swishing motion with it, kind of going at the top and adding a little bit. And then another thing we'll do is go ahead and start building our shape of these stems of the flowers. So kind of make almost like an X shape there. And then go through it again. Oh, and that's nice. See how green mixes with the red that's already there. It kind of makes it a darker green, which I think is kind of nice. Okay, so just keep on adding little bits of stems if you can. I noticed that I got a little bit too much yellow in mine, so I'm gonna switch brushes. Plus I'm ready for the smaller brush, so. Okay, so I've got my smaller brush and I'm gonna go back to my palette for a little bit more of that hunter green. Well, it's really not hunter green, but it's pretty brilliant green still. But we're just adding stems of a bouquet, so I have to go over it a few times. And then I might also add a little bit of black to my palette. I'll try to show you what that looks like in a moment. Okay, so I've got this green, and then I've got these dots of black. So I'm trying to make my green a bit more huntery green. Okay, that's pretty nice. Okay, good. And then just keep on adding layers of stems that go to the flowers. And again, I want to add water to my brush. Just add a little bit of water, then kind of either dab it off or wipe it off. I probably didn't even dab off enough, but that way it'll be smooth when it goes onto the canvas. Okay, there, that's that dark green I'm looking for. It's good, okay. Okay. And now we might need to wait for it to dry because it kind of looks like these are going to need some more layers. But let's let that kind of rest because I've been working it now for a few minutes, and maybe just add some outer leaves here. You can just kind of make them line shapes, really. They don't have to be anything, terribly fancy. They can just be kind of little, almost like confetti shapes, little line shapes, and we'll add them in later, but it's just to help us see where things are going to go. And then we'll start doing the same process down here in this area. So it'll be kind of a radial. So there'll be a bunch of green lines kind of radiating. And I'm just using this hunter green that I've created out of the turquoise, the yellow, and the black. Okay, so that radial shape can be kind of like curved lines coming off of the center area. And then there'll be a couple that are longer, a couple radial kind of shapes that start from the middle area but then start to hang down a little bit. And this will just be like the type of plant that you would find in the grocery store maybe or a nursery where people might buy a plant as a gift kind of thing, or just a beautiful plant for the home. Okay, and then I'll just kind of fill in a little bit so that we've got something to paint on top of. So I'm just taking my my homemade hunter green and filling it in. This will get painted over, but we do want some green in the background so that there's something to work with back there. Okay, that's good. Pretty good, pretty good. Okay, looks kind of wild right now. And then now that we've kind of gathered our confidence with that, let's go back up here and just do a little bit of a tapping motion to fill in a little bit. You don't have to fill in a lot, but maybe just a few little things on the sides here. We can always do that later to see, sometimes you kind of see how things look, see how it goes. Okay, good, 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 good. Just kind of fill it in loosely, lightly. Good. Okay, then I also saw a big green shape over here in the reference photo. That may or may not have been on purpose, but oh, you know what? Now that I'm looking at it, it looks kind of like a heart. That was that hunter color. I'm going to go back to a bigger brush. Just slightly bigger brush and go back to the hunter color. And then maybe just kind of add a little bit of it almost looks like a leaf. And it can just be kind of an oval shape. And then it does look like there was a heart there, so just adding kind of a heart shape. Okay, good. Then, okay, this is a good brush. If you have something kind of sort of this shape, what you can do with just that little bit of green, that hunter green that's on the brush, you can take it and dab the brush this way. Oops. And just, it'll make kind of a flower shape. So you can dab it that way, and then maybe just pull the paint down a little. So dab and then pull, dab and then pull, dab and then pull. And then if you do it in slightly different directions, like this one's kind of pointed that way, these are pointed this way, you can do some pointed this way. You could even, this is going to be an experiment for me, but you might even try, see how I had been dabbing it using this direction? You could turn it sideways and dab it like this and see what that does. Well, it's not much, but you can always dab and pull. Dab the brush and then pull the paint. Dab the brush and pull the paint. And you can kind of go around the edges and add some out here. And like my paintbrush has yellow, green, I see red, I see hunter green, I see all kinds of, just nice to create a bit more texture. And in some areas it'll be dark, in some areas it'll be lighter, and it's just nice to add as much little interest as you can. And it also helps to connect the painting around. So if you have this same shape in different areas, the viewer starts to feel a little bit more, they can, kind of feel comfortable, like, oh, this one part isn't coming out of nowhere, which is also fine if that happens. But I like when paintings have that integrated feel. Maybe just go in. Maybe just add some texture. Okay. Add a little texture. Okay, good. Now would be a good time to use our gold leaf. So before we go much further, let's go ahead and do that quick tutorial. Go ahead and put the brushes in the water. We won't need those for a second. Actually, let me think about that for a second. What do we do first? Okay. Let's get a... Okay, I stand corrected. So go ahead and get the brush back out. I'm sorry. We're going to get a little bit of a orangish color, and we're going to paint like a sideways arrow from about here to about here. So it'll be... And you can use your gold leaf to measure how big that will be. The good news is the arrow does not have to be painted perfectly. We just need... It's just going to act as a glue. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I keep going back and forth about which steps are next. Maybe what's best is that I explained it first, that we're going to use the orange paint as a glue, and then we will cut our gold leaf into a shape. So I stand corrected about taking the brush back out. Go ahead and leave the brush back in the water for now. And then take the gold leaf out. I'll get mine. Okay. So the thing about gold leaf is it's extremely, extremely, extremely fragile, and it will tear at the drop of a hat. But that's okay. If it tears, it's okay. You can still use it. So I like to leave the paper on the back. So see how the paper's still attached or somewhat attached to it? And then I like to cut the paper with the gold leaf. So, oh, these scissors are... Okay, so I'm just going to cut from one corner to about the middle of my square. Okay, so there's one cut. Okay, then I'm going to cut the next corner to the middle of the square. We're just making a little arrow shape. And again, it's abstract, so, you know, give oneself grace. As I'm doing. Okay. So now I've got a little triangle. I'm going to put the rest away behind the camera. And here's my little triangle. And when I tell y'all this is frustrating, I mean, this is frustrating. So if you're having trouble, don't worry. You just want a sense of gold. You don't even need it to be a great shape. So now I'm just cutting another smaller triangle inside. And it is so... Mine's tearing. I'm having a hard time holding it up to the camera. But basically, I'm cutting a shape that's kind of a triangle inside of a triangle, and it's creating like an arrow shape. And like I said, you just want an essence of gold. It really doesn't have to be this shape. If you end up just using a triangle or anything, it's fine. Okay, so now this is my... Oh, I can't even hardly hold it to show to the camera, but this is the shape, and the fan is kind of blowing it around, so that's the shape. And then I see that the sun is reflecting off of it, so you're probably not even seeing it that well. Let me go turn off the fan and I'll try to show it. It's like a precious little... Okay, so see how we've got that little arrow type shape? Really, this is abstract. You could use any shape and that would be fine. You could use a triangle. You could even just use whatever shape comes out. I mean, you know, there's been plenty of paintings I've done where we just kind of use the gold leaf in any abstract shape that we have. Okay, so now I for sure will get the paintbrush back out. And I will take a little bit of my little orange color, orangey, yellowy, gold color. Only reason I'm doing that is just to kind of blend in with the background. It really could be any color, but so much for that. It's kind of bright. Okay, if you have gold, I would recommend using it. I'm mixing my own little gold because I don't have any, but there's that. Okay. And then I'm going to try to make it a little bit bigger than my gold leaf that I've just cut out. So I'm trying to make, just so it's kind of a glue. So I'll be able to see that it definitely works. It definitely fits. Okay, taking that shape and trying to lay it down. Not easy. See, mine already ripped. It's okay. Just lay it down. However it comes out is okay. And the nice thing too is that it can later, you can kind of paint on top of it. So like see how I painted way far to the left? You can kind of go back underneath and do that. Or you can even paint on top and it'll help lay it down a little bit. Okay. And now I have this gold color on my brush, so I'm just going to look for somewhere to kind of add some texture to something. Adding texture, adding texture, adding texture, adding texture. That's what abstract is all about. Texture, 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 texture. Okay. Good, 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 good. Having fun. Okay. What's next? So in the example photo, there's a diamond shape that's right here, but I'm not going to cut out a diamond shape. I am just going to add kind of anything right here, which to me would be, you could paint a diamond shape out of glitter paint if you have that. You could paint it out of gold paint if you have that. I think what I might do though, I do have my little smaller triangle that I cut out of that piece earlier. So I might just add like a little triangle. Again, this is not easy, so if you're doing anything with gold leaf, good. It's good enough. Whatever it is, it's good. Okay. So in the example photo, I had gone back over this area with the red heart. We can do that. We don't have to do that. I'm not too sure what we want to do there. Let's maybe wait till the end to decide. And then in the meantime, let's go ahead and fill this in with red. So take a nice medium-sized brush, and then again, if you don't have red, magenta is completely fine, or if you still have some of that mixed where it was magenta plus like maybe some black or some turquoise or something to kind of make it a darker magenta. But I'm just going to start, what I do is I just kind of take quite a bit of paint and start kind of tapping. So tap, and it'll make kind of a flower shape. So tap, tap. And these, you'll want to be a bit gentle with the tapping. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's kind of nice if you're a little bit calculated with it. Just kind of tap. And see how that just makes a little bouquet of roses? Just that tapping of the brush, tapping of the brush. That was fun. That was really fun. Okay, just gonna kind of keep adding just a little bit. I don't want to do too much, but I don't want to do too few, so it's okay though. I mean, I notice in the example photo there's quite a bit of red shapes up here that kind of mimic the roses coming up off the tops and the sides. And I think that's kind of pretty, so that's fine if that's what's happening. Sometimes it is nice to just have a hint of something. Okay, good. And then so you'll see right now it's all red, but after it dries a bit, we'll come back and add some white highlights. And let's go ahead and get started on adding that reddish or pinkish to this one. And it's almost like a secondary background to this plant. So just kind of adding that red. We'll have quite a few layers on top of there, but for now, just having a little red and maybe even helping that hunter green feel a bit more layered. So having just a little bit of red, just a hair, just a little bit. And as always, if there's any extra red on the brush, feel free to add some texture. Okay. Let's see what's next. I'm noticing some lighter colors, kind of the cream colors around here. And I'm definitely noticing the white or cream. They're kind of a very light pink flowers that are coming up through here. So maybe if we get some cream color on our brush, which you can make that with white and then just a little bit of yellow. I would say just mix a little white. Pardon me. Mix some white, get some yellow on there, and then kind of go for the correct color that you're looking for. But yeah, I took my white and just adding it into the yellow. I don't know. Oh, sorry, that was off camera. So now I like when I have a few colors to choose from. I kind of have like a white with a tiny bit of yellow in it, and then I've got yellow and white, and then I've got yellow with, some white in it. So I've got all three. Oh, and then I just remembered that we also want one that has a bit of pink in it. So go ahead and add either red or pink to your palette there. I'm just trying to get the last little bit of pink out of my tube. Okay, so I've got my pink, my magenta rather, and just gonna add just a little bit. Okay. Then I will do that same motion. I might add a little water to my brush. Just a little dab of water so it flows fairly nicely when I do go to dab. Either use water or use quite a bit of paint, but I like to use water just so it's a little see-through. And then if it's ever too light, I can always add a second layer. But there's that dabbing motion again of the brush. And you can just kind of add your own style to it. And you'll notice that that dabbing motion really brings a nice flower shape, which is really fun. So, especially when it goes, it looks kind of radial from some certain point. It's kind of just it's not a perfect bouquet or anything, but it's reminiscent of one. That is so fun. Isn't that so fun? Just making flowers out of dabbing a brush. So easy and fun. And let's see. I might kind of just be a little bit more loose with it out here, just so I can have some texture that's reminiscent of these main shapes, but just kind of get a little bit of a feeling, I guess, over here on these edges. Okay, good. And then while we're at it, there might be it might be nice to have some little areas. I like to make this little circular motion with the brush. Just be careful not to, I don't really know how to describe it, but there's a way to circle the brush that doesn't ruin the bristles. If you press too hard and then do circles, it could start to ruin the bristles. But if you're just real gentle and just kind of going in circular motions, the bristles will stay nice and intact, at least for a while, until you do something else that ruins the brush. No, okay. But I'm just adding little areas where I want to have some lighter color. It's nice to have a little bit of light colors here and there. I feel like it's highlights and texture always. More texture helps with abstract. So I'm just adding texture here and there. Okay. It would also be an okay time if you want to use a smaller brush. I'm going to get an actual pretty small type of brush and get that white paint. It's kind of nice if it's white mixed with a little bit of yellow or pink, but actually it could be just straight white. And then you could kind of tie a bow on this bouquet. You would just do like a little circle, a little oval, and do another oval next to it. And so it'd kind of be like a figure 8, but sideways. And then you could just do some little lines, little curved lines. And they can be any style. You could curve them. You could, make them a bit more straight. You can really do anything. But you could make a little bouquet, tie. And then while we have the white, we could add a little highlights to the roses. Sometimes they're a little too stark, so go ahead and mix them. Like for me, mine are mixing with the paint that's still wet, but if it's too stark, add back in that red or magenta color. So it's not too white on red. You'll just have to be the judge. But it's nice to have like a little highlight and have the contrast between the white and the red. And while we have a little writing brush, I call it a writing brush, it's just a smaller paintbrush, I'm going to go ahead and add a white heart around here. And again, this will just be, it's a white heart on a red heart. So it'll be just to add some contrast, so that there's an area where the viewer's eye is very drawn to because our eyes really like high contrast things usually. So I'm just painting a little, tiny little white heart standing out against the red heart. And again, add some water to your brush and try to get those edges kind of solid if possible. It really doesn't have to be perfect, but it is fun. It's fun to have some areas where it's, just a little bit more, I guess, refined or something. So let's keep trying. It's pretty difficult to get it solid on canvas because canvas is so porous, or it's not a flat surface exactly. But hey, we can dream, we can try. We can make an effort. Okay, good. Okay. So now we've still got this whole area that's not really doing much. I'm just gonna wipe off my white into the area just so now we have something else to play with. Because once it's white right here, we'll start adding lighter colors. So I'm just wiping off my brush in this spot. But we'll start adding colors on top you'll kind of see why we needed that white. And it doesn't have to be everywhere. It can just be right in the middle. Okay, so let me look at my reference photo to see what colors go there. And you can kind of see where we're painting. This is what it looks like. So there's magenta, there's a reddish color, there's a purple, there's a turquoise. There's some really, really light green that's almost a lime green. There's a real peachish color. So let's just try to go ahead and mix all that up now, or maybe we'll go layer by layer. So let me take that back and let's start with magenta. I just like how, it's kind of and if you have a red, that will be fine too. You can always add a bit of white just to make it kind of a little bit lighter. Okay. So I'm starting with a dark magenta and just doing a little bit at a time. We could do the tapping motion again. That would probably be one of the good ways to do it. And then we can add more out here away from the little white area. Just kind of add it out towards the edges of the plant. Okay, good. And again, I would recommend doing that tapping motion. Kind of just helps with making things look a bit organic. Kind of nature made, which is fun. Okay, so there's that. And then since we have the magenta, go ahead and add your turquoise to the magenta. And it should make kind of a purple color. If it's really dark, which it usually is, you could also add some white to that. So I've got my little bluish turquoise color here, and then I'm adding the magenta. It's a nice purpley color, and then we'll take that and just do different little areas of purples. And again, I'll tap the brush. So just tapping little circles, little circles. Okay. Good, 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 good. Okay. If it gets to be too bright, I mean, it's nice to have some bright spots, but you could also add back in the magenta and kind of downplay that brightness. Either way is fine. I don't know if everyone can see what I'm doing. I may need to move the camera a little bit closer, but I don't want to get too close anyway, let me see what I can do here. Okay, well, that's definitely a little closer, maybe a little bit better. Okay, so you can just kind of see, it's probably pretty hard to see on screen, but this is just little dots. I mean, it really is just up to you. It can be the pink dots, then the purpley dots, and then later we'll come in with some lime green dots. We'll come in with some kind of blue and white areas, and we'll even lighten it up with like a pink and white area, or just dots, I guess, and then some peach. And anyway, so this is just to get us going. And also, I notice now I have this extra purple on my brush, and I'd like to go ahead and use it. There's a purple heart in our reference photo, but it's purple and white. I mean, it's not this straight purple, so I'll go ahead and paint the purple heart, but then I'm going to add some white to it. Okay, can't really tell if that's being seen on camera, but feel free to text me if there are any questions at all. And also, so now that that's been added, I kind of like the idea of maybe having just hints of that purple and that kind of light purple, maybe a hint of it elsewhere, out here maybe up here. I don't know if I'll actually like that. That might be kind of wild. And if it is too wild, what we'll do is add like a cream color on top, just so it doesn't stand out so much. But it could go, it could be like a little texture over here, a little texture over here, maybe even adding back in some texture into the plant area. I think that's probably the best use of that light purple, is back in that plant. So just getting that light purple, using it where it will be most effective. Okay, good. Good. Okay. So going back to the plant, now that we've used all the purple off of our brush, I'm gonna go ahead and rinse our brush. And I'm gonna take my turquoise deep and I'm going to mix it. I'll need to kind of do this demo, because what you'll do is you'll take the turquoise, it'll be on your brush, and then you will put it straight from the tube to the brush to the canvas. So it'll be somewhat thick. And you don't really need too many of these dots because they are going to stand out. So there will be less of these than the other ones that we were doing. But it's nice to have a few, definitely a few. And then what you can do next, you can either rinse off your brush, or I might like try to use the rest, anything left over just onto the canvas somewhere. But just make sure there's not too much, kind of get the turquoise off of your brush. And then take straight white and put it, like mix it straight into that color onto the canvas. And it'll kind of make it a really neat looking, just real interesting looking color, really interesting shape. So you don't need much. You can kind of be the judge of how much you need. And then it can be fun to have it up here. Maybe just a few little dabs back in, but not too much, because it is so contrasty, it's really gonna draw the viewer's eye. So I feel like it's a little wild, but it's nice to have something wild, and then you can always go back and we can always paint back over it. And it'll just kind of fade back into the background. When I say wild, I just mean high contrast. Okay. Good. Very good. Okay. Let's keep on moving down the road. Oh, I'm having too much fun with this color. Another thing I just thought of, you could take your leftover gold leaf, because you should have quite a bit left over, but you could take just rip some pieces up. See how I've just ripped it into kind of a random shape, and then I could stick it onto that. And it starts to look a little bit like confetti or something. So onto these, okay, it's real hard to manage this gold leaf, but I could just kind of stick it onto those areas where I've added some real stark colors. It's just a fun use of gold leaf, and it'll really add something to the painting. But it's real finicky, so I'm just tearing it with my hand and hoping for the best. Okay. All right. So let's see what we have here. I think what I'm seeing in this painting, I do see that we'll need to add a lime green and kind of a peachish color to this, and maybe even like a little bit of yellow to this plant. But also, before we keep going, I'd love to add some dimension to these, where the plant's hanging down. Because right now it's all one color, and I think it looks just a little bit flat compared to the reference photo, especially. So I'm going to go ahead and use either a reddish or a magenta mixed with, you could use kind of a purple color even, and I haven't done it yet, so let me see what I have on my palette for that. I think I've got this kind of magenta mixed with turquoise, kind of purplish. So that'll be good to go. And you would just make it like a shadow. Mine's a little bit light. I need to find something darker. But if you're using the turquoise deep and the magenta, you should be good to go. It should be dark enough. So I'm just kind of making it like it's a shadow. It's almost like it's its own little, these are like layers. I may go back over it with the hunter green later. Might even extend these shapes a little bit and maybe have them be a little bit more wild, a little bit more organic looking, I suppose. Okay, that's pretty fun. Kind of adding something. Maybe making these longer. Okay, right now they're kind of purple, so you could also do a bit of the tapping motion because you don't want these to look too smooth because they are leaves. They're supposed to be leaves. So I like to do a bit of a tapping motion to add some texture. And then add some tapping motion out to the edges too. That'll help give it the idea of leaves. So right now it's pretty purple, and then I'm going to want to go back over it with a hunter green. Okay, hunter green, hunter green. I'm gonna take my green and mix it with black again. And as this process is going on, if anything's getting confusing, just send a text over. No problem at all. Texts are definitely welcome and can always help to just kind of see, either a little guidance or just, help resolve whatever problems coming up during the painting process. Okay. I got my hunter green a little bit too dark, so I'm adding back in some green. Okay. So I've got these purple leaves, and now this purpleness is just serving as like a shadow almost. So now I'm going to go back over and tap, tap, tap to be kind of on top. So and then I'm assuming that the light is coming from above, so then that'll mean that the green is on the like when the green's on the right side of the plant, it'll be on the right side of the leaves. I have no idea if this makes sense, but basically the green's going up on top. And then on the left side, the green's going on the left of the little stems or leaf, vine, whatever this is called. But again, just tapping, tapping, tapping is really good. Tap, 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 tap. It just helps with nice texture. Okay, and then I'll also add back in a little bit more of that green into here, just so it gives that impression of leaves. And again, I'm tapping, tapping, tapping. Okay, good. And then maybe I'll add kind of a big leaf up here at the top. And then just some ideas of leaves in the background. Okay, good, 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 good. Some little ideas. I like to call things ideas of something. An idea of a leaf. And then I'll use this opportunity with the hunter green to go over some of those really stark colors. Like I had that real light purple, that real light blue, I'll go back over it with the green, and that'll make it look a bit more neutral, make it blend in a little bit more. Let me step back from the painting. See how it looks. Okay, so whoop. Sorry, I booked the camera. Okay. So this area definitely looks very bright, which is good. That's what we're going for. And I still think that these are kind of stark looking. So what I noticed is in the inspiration, there's some of that green is just it's just real light coming off of the stem, off of these viney things. So just feel free to play with it. It can be kind of loose, and paint kind of quickly if you can. So just real, well, unstructured, I guess, but also just real light maybe. And it'll just start to kind of look like confetti coming off the plant. Okay, I don't know if that's even viewable. It's very light, but it just adds just that little bit of texture really adds something. And I apologize, the window is, or the camera stand or something's causing a shadow. I wish I could. No, let's see, it's the window. Okay. Let's see what else we want to do here. I do see a pretty faint white heart that's right here. I do see a bit more of the darker leaves around this bouquet. So, while I've got this hunter green color, it might be wise to go ahead and use that to add to this bouquet over here. So let's switch back over to this bouquet and add just some leafy ideas. So it can be kind of leaves in here and here. Just kind of fill it in maybe. And again, tapping is always a good idea. At least usually. But it's nice, you can kind of get like a leaf coming off a rose kind of sensation. I'm just filling in stems. Filling in some greenery and some leaves. And then maybe I want some bigger leaves up here. Just a few. Or even some green that's not super solid, but just kind of real light in there. Maybe even some leaves that have kind of fallen off over here. That might be fun. Let's just see if this is going to be too dark. Well, it's a little dark, but it's just one area. It's okay. Okay. And then now that I've painted that real hunter green color, well, let me do just a little bit more, making it bigger on this bouquet. Because I noticed on the inspiration photo, it's a hunter green with, there's kind of a white mixed into it. So there's that hunter green, and then while the paint is still wet, I'm gonna get a little bit of white, and I'm gonna try not to make it too stark, so it's just a little bit of white, and it's just to kind of highlight those leaves and draw just a little bit of attention to them, so that, you know, the viewer is like, oh, you know, what's that, and how exciting. I just realized I'm so sorry, I just did that off of camera. But basically what just happened is I was adding a bunch of these green shapes up at the top, and then I added some white to them. And I don't want the white to be, you know, too white, so somehow I've mixed the white with the green first before adding it to the canvas. And I so apologize for not doing that on camera. And then sometimes things start to look too perfect, so I go back and I just tap. I just tap with whatever paint's left on the brush. So I want it to be looking a bit more organic, and sometimes I even make like a little circle just to kind of get that same color, but not have it be too perfect, I guess. So there's that. Not too sure what I'm doing here. Okay. So let's see what we want to maybe work on next. I think while we have this somewhat hunter color on our brush, let's add a little water and, you know, still have a little bit of that hunter green, and just kind of add some texture in here just to kind of give it a sense of leaves. It doesn't have to be full on leaves, because these white roses right here look kind of they're kind of faint. But I do think they need some of that green, just a little greenery with them. And if, like me, if your water and green start dripping, just blot it with a paper towel, or I'm using my hand. Okay. Good. So now this area down here with this plant, hopefully will have dried a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and get my yellow color and my magenta color and mix them together to make a bit of a, what's the word for that color? Kind of a orangish peachish orange. Okay, so I don't know if on my palette you can see that yellow right there, but I'm adding my magenta, I'm adding a little yellow, and I just want something a little bit bright. And it's not too bright though, because that magenta kind of turns it a little bit. Anyway, I'm just gonna add that to this down here. And what's really nice is if there's any white spots left over from earlier, when we painted that big white blob, this is the time to kind of cover that up. So I'm just covering up any little white areas. But you can also paint it into, you can paint it on top of things. That's what I'm trying to say. Like on top of green, on top of purple. But again, it's pretty contrasting, so I'm not doing too many. Just I did probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 little dots there. Some of them were a little smaller, some were a little bigger. And I wish there was a way to be able to see it a little closer. That's probably about as close as it's gonna get, but there's that for now. Try to. The last color though was kind of a lime green, which was really neat. So to get that, you would do quite a bit of yellow and then just a dab of turquoise or blue. So I'll mix that for myself. You can do the same. And do a nice bright yellow if you have one, or just any yellow probably will work. Any basic yellow. And then get a little bit of a nice pretty blue or a pretty turquoise. And just a tiny amount will be enough. So you can see I've got my yellow. And then now I'm putting a tiny bit here. And that just makes kind of a lime green. And I will try to scoot the camera closer, but this is really not getting. But yeah, there's this little lime color here and there. And that actually looks pretty nice. I didn't know it would be so opaque. I thought we might have trouble seeing it, but I'm pleased with how it's turning out. So pretty exciting. And as always, dabbing the brush, making flower shapes out of dabbing the brush. Good. Oh, that was so fun. I'm just having a ball. So I hope you are too. And I do like this little lime green. It isn't really anywhere else in the painting, but I wonder if I just added it a few places, how it might feel like it's okay. It is pretty bright though, so I might go back over it and decide it's too bright and maybe tone it down with some peach or something on top. Peach or hunter or whatever color. Oh, I just realized I'm painting way off camera. I apologize. All I've been doing is just adding I added this lime green in different areas. I think on camera it doesn't look so bright, but it's fairly bright over here. So that's what I was saying, is that I'm going to go back over it with something a bit more neutral. Or maybe not. I mean, maybe I'm enjoying that it's there's some areas where it's a little bright. You can kind of decide that. If you're putting this in a room that you want all neutrals, go back over it with a peach or a kind of muted yellow or a muted pink, or and to get a muted color, you would look at the color wheel and then add the opposite. So like if it's a pink, you would add a little bit of a muted green. Or sorry, you would add green and it would become muted. Anyway. If that's all confusing, either feel free to text me or just continue experimenting. That's one of the best ways to learn, is just to experiment. And we definitely went a little bit over time today. I just wanted to take my time and make sure that everyone got the instructions and everything else. I'm really glad we've had this time. Oh, wow. My hunter green just turned really dark on me right there. I must have kind of turned the brush or had it in a certain way on the palette. Didn't realize. And that is okay. I'll just add back over it. Just, make it a little lighter. That's what's so great about abstract. It's like, oh yeah, that was supposed to be there. So I hope everyone has had so much fun like I have. And we will have another lesson next week. Then we'll be off for 1 week. So what we're doing is 3 weeks on, 1 week off, and then 3 weeks on. So hopefully that makes sense. It's basically because that week is the Labor Day week, and I kind of thought, well, it's a short week for people. People may be just getting home from vacation. Maybe we want to have a little break. So anyway, it'll be great when we do resume. But there will be a lesson next week, so I will see you then. And then if there's any questions at all, please feel free to text. Let me just get this back just to see what it looks like as a whole. Oh my, okay. Yeah, it's kind of dark in this room when the sun goes down. I mean, it's not super dark, but it's just don't have a good light source. So this was our inspiration photo. Try to get the glare off. Okay, that's the inspiration photo. And here's our final. Although, I wish there was better lighting in here. Let me see if I can take it somewhere where y'all can see it a little bit better. And let me try to not step in any of my paint that I've got strewn across the floor. Could also bring it closer to the camera. That could work. Still not great lighting, but you can kind of see some of the details up close. And then I will try to move the camera to the light. Move the painting and the camera to the light. Oh, that's not any better. Oh boy. I'm looking for a spot with better lighting and I'm not really finding any. Well, now I know for next class I may need to move a lamp in here or something. That would probably help a lot. So, actually, let me go get that lamp or let me take the painting to the lamp. So if you don't mind holding on for about 2-3 minutes, I'll be back. Okay, I've got the lamp. I just need to plug it in. So just give me a moment while I do that. Okay, and now I know. So next time we have class, I'll be a bit more ready so you can see things, hopefully. Let me position the lamp the right way. Okay. Oh dear. Oh my. I apologize. I'm having trouble reaching a lamp from the lamp. So please just bear with me. I really do apologize. Okay, let me try to position it to where it can be seen. Okay, and that's really bright. It's like there's no happy medium. It's either ridiculously bright or in a shadow. I know there's got to be a happy medium. I just need to get things a little better set up over here. So hopefully, I know that's really creating a glare where there's gold leaf sections are. But I'm trying to hold it at an angle, which is making it look weird. Okay, so there we go. And next time what I'll be doing is painting with the lamp onto the painting, so you'll be able to see it as it's going. So thanks for bearing with me while learning everything about lighting during these sessions. Okay, have a wonderful evening. I'll see you soon. See you next time. Bye-bye.